Hello everyone and welcome. We're happy to have you with us today. My name is Carrie Ferg and I'm your host for Manta's Small Business Expert Series about content marketing. Manta wants to thank content marketing expert Joe Pulizzi for generously donating his time and expertise. We hope you'll tweet about today's event using hashtag MantaExperts. We'll begin today with a welcome from Manta's CEO, John Swansinger. Here's John.
The marketing techniques of yesteryear don't hold the same impact they once did with readers and viewers. Marketers today are finding success with a new method, content marketing. By engaging readers and viewers with topics they're interested in, content can help you build a lasting connection. During our expert webinar today, you will learn what content marketing is and how you can use it to engage and ultimately convert potential customers into sales. Guest expert Joe Pulizzi, the renowned founder of the Content Marketing Institute, will teach his approach to successful content marketing, which includes 6 key tenets outlined in his newly released book, Content Inc. Thanks for attending the expert webinar today. Now, back to Carrie.
Thanks, John. In case you missed it earlier, I'm Carrie Ferg, editor at Manta, and your host for today's webinar. I want to take a few minutes to cover some important housekeeping items about the event. Let's first talk about your screen. During the webinar, you should see a slide area which you can resize and make bigger. Left of that is the media player, and under it a box called the resource list, and some widgets. All of the widgets open and close, and I encourage you to check them out. I want to point out 3 widgets in particular: the resource list, the help widget, and the Q&A widget. If you're having technical difficulties, please click on the help widget, the one with the question mark icon. My colleague Mel is answering your technical questions, so just send her a note. Now I'd like to introduce Graham, our community manager, who will be fielding your questions today.
Hello everyone, I'm Graham and I'll be helping with questions today. I know you'll have a lot once we get going, so feel free to ask them at any time. Just click on the Q&A widget and type in your question and I'll push them along to Carrie and our expert Joe. Carrie and Joe will be answering questions during the last 15 minutes of the webinar, but please ask them as soon as you think of them. After the webinar, I'll be hosting a discussion with Joe and our community. Join us, and Joe will answer any lingering questions you have about content marketing. Thanks.
Thanks, Graham. Okay, let's get down to business. I'm excited to introduce our guest today, Joe Pulizzi. Joe Pulizzi is founder of Content Marketing Institute, the leading education and training organization for content marketing, which includes the largest in-person content marketing event in the world, Content Marketing World. Joe is the winner of the 2014 John Caldwell Lifetime Achievement Award from the Content Council. Joe's 4th book, Content Inc., was just released. His 3rd book, Epic Content Marketing, was named one of 5 must-read business books of 2013 by Fortune magazine. You can find Joe on Twitter, which is linked on our resource list today. If you ever see Joe in person, he'll be wearing orange. And Joe, when I read that, I just have to ask you, why are you all about the color orange?
Hi, Carrie. How are you? It's great to be on. It's interesting. When I first started to do public speaking, and I started with the blog, the blog got some attention, and I actually got a speaking gig in Brussels, Belgium. And they said, Joe, we'd love you to come and speak, except you have to wear all black tuxedo and a silver tie. And I said, I'll wear whatever you want to. You're bringing me over to Brussels. I'll be happy to do that. And so I didn't wear my trademark orange, and what I didn't know was a trademark at the time. So I wore the black, and I came off the stage in Brussels, never being there before, and I had 3 people come up to me say why I wasn't wearing orange. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I branded myself that way, and I'm like, there might be a business opportunity here. And from that moment on, I only have orange clothes. If you go to my closet, it's all orange, and anywhere I go, it's orange or bust. And we feel that it's another way to hopefully cut through the clutter and get some attention out there.
I love it. Thanks for sharing the story with us.
Got it.
Before we get started, I'd like to ask a quick poll question. The question is, do you have a content marketing plan for your business? I'll wait just a few seconds and then we'll pull up the results. So it looks like 72% of you do not have a content marketing plan and the other 27% do. Joe, do these numbers surprise you?
No, actually, this is interesting, Carrie. They absolutely don't surprise me because the majority of businesses out there, specifically small businesses, don't have any kind of content marketing plan at all, and that's one of the problems. So I'm really excited to talk a little bit about what I think is an important model. So and everybody's heard about content marketing, right? I mean, at least you've heard the term, but you don't think about how can I put together a scalable plan that's going to help us attract and retain more customers. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. So this is a very specific content marketing approach, and I've been able to be part of Content Marketing Institute for quite a while now, since 2007, and most of the discussion we have is with large enterprise marketers. This one I'm going to talk about today is specific for entrepreneurs, startups, and small businesses, and there's actually 6 steps we're going to cover today. It's the sweet spot, the content tilt, building the base, harvesting the audience, diversification, and monetization. So I'm going to go a little bit through this whole thing. I'm going to talk for about 35 minutes on this. I'm going to hopefully give you a lot of compelling case studies, and I guess what I want you to do is, before I go into all this and all the detail, I want you to look for the one thing. I'm going to give you these 6 things, and I'm going to have a takeaway slide that will give you 10 things at the end of this. But I think that I want you to find that one thing that you can enact in your business right away and really make a difference to your customers as well as your business, and go through. And hopefully we'll have a little bit of fun along the way as we go. So I've got just a few slides just to talk about content marketing in general and why it's so big. So just to define content marketing, we're talking about how do we deliver valuable, relevant, compelling information to a targeted audience consistently over time to attract and build customers. We want to have a profitable, we're not just creating content to create content. We're creating it because we want to have impact in our business. We're trying to do it from a profitability standpoint. We want to drive revenue in some way. Well, why is content marketing taken off? And I love this slide in front of you that you see from ExactTarget here, because it really builds the case for why our customers don't need to care about our products and services anymore. And I think a lot of businesses fall down because they're creating content all about your own products, your own services, your own features and benefits. And we've got to realize that except for a very small portion of the buyer's process, they don't care about us. They only care about themselves, their own needs, and because they can afford not to. And if you look at before 1990 and how we used to communicate with customers, there was basically 8 channels. That meant that advertising dominated. That means that major media companies dominated, and we were relegated to sit through advertisements. We were relegated to basically get that information from whatever was available because there wasn't much available. Now, if we go into 2015, 2016 now, there are literally hundreds of different ways our customers could get information. They have a 24/7 device with them at all times called the smartphone that they can get any piece of content they want. And of course, if any of you have shopped for a house or a car, you usually have more information than the person selling you that product because you have that smartphone device or you have access to the internet in some way. That means in order to break through, we have to be interesting. We have to actually get their attention and drive value consistently. So people are moving to this thing called content marketing, and what you're seeing in front of you, this is a Google Trends chart about the number of the search activity over time regarding the term content marketing. So we have a lot of people using content marketing, and I'm sure a lot of you are dabbling in content marketing, doing some content marketing in some way. According to the research at Content Marketing Institute that we've done this past year, 80% of small businesses do some form of content marketing. But at the same time, and this is what keeps me up at night and why I continue to teach about this thing and I was talking to Carrie before the webinar about how many of these podcasts and webinars that I do. It's because of this number. 30% of small businesses say that they're successful at their content marketing. So if we look at 80% are doing some form of content marketing, they're creating blogs and audio podcasts and videos, but only 30% are seeing some kind of success. If you're a baseball player, you're making the all-star team with a 300 average, but if you're a small business, you're not happy. You might be going bankrupt. You might have problems. You're not driving enough revenue. You're not getting enough sales. This is a problem. Why is it just 30%? Well, in what we just looked at in the question you all answered, less than about 30% of you actually have some kind of a strategy. Maybe you're the ones that are seeing success. Most of us are just dabbling in it. We don't have any formal strategy around it because of campaigns. We're focusing on short bursts of content and not consistent content. Manta, we're talking too much about our own products and services. No clear goals. If you don't have any strategy for content marketing, I can guarantee you don't have a goals. And of course, there's your strategy. We're treating content more like advertising, and we can't do that. And so now what I really want to talk about is, well, how do we do it well? How can we be, the 30% that's actually seeing some kind of success? How do we drive more customers? And that's when we get into this whole idea called the Content Inc. model. And as you saw, my latest book is called Content Inc. And what we did was we went out and talked to dozens and dozens of businesses all from around the world who were multi-million-dollar companies that built an audience first and then sold products and services to that audience. And what we found is we reverse engineered the model with all those case studies. We found that each one of them actually did these 6 steps. They did it at different times, but they actually went and did these 6 steps. So I'm going to go through each of these 6 steps as we go, and so you can understand this. And I want you to try to think in your head, really target, who is the audience you want to talk to? A lot of you are targeting different audiences, but for your own business, who's that audience that maybe that low-hanging fruit that you can really make impact with that's going to make a difference in your business, and how you can build that audience. And then once you build a relationship with that audience, then you can extract the value, sell them some products and services and whatnot. So the first step is the sweet spot. Now, what is the sweet spot? The sweet spot is the intersection of, on the one side, you have a deep passion. You're super passionate about something. It takes a while to build an audience, so you have to get up every day for a while, every day, every week, every month, whatever the case is, and get up passionate about what you're going to communicate with your customers about. If it's not a passion, let's say you're an existing mid-sized business and you're a growing business, that could be not around a personal passion. It could be around a customer pain point, what's keeping your customers up at night. That you have to mix that with some knowledge or skill area that you actually have authority to communicate. So if you are a pet supplies company, you're not going to be doing a blog on RFID equipment, right? It doesn't make any sense. You have no authority to communicate on that. So you actually want to go through an exercise and say, okay, what do we have a knowledge or skill area that are going to actually set our story apart from everything else out there? And let me give you an example of one in action so I can really make this real for you. This is Andy Schneider. Andy Schneider is the chicken whisperer. And it's kind of a funny story. I love this example. But basically, Andy went to a flea market back in 2008, and he saw some chickens at the flea market. And he says, I'd like to raise some chickens in my backyard. This is, by the way, this is a thing. I didn't know this was a thing, but a lot of people raise chickens in their backyard. But back in 2008, it wasn't much of a thing. Andy's from a suburb outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And he did the right thing. Before he actually bought the chickens and brought them home, he called his wife and he said, if I bring some chickens home, can we raise them? Are you going to be mad at me? Are you going to divorce me? She said, no, let's go do it. I love it. Let's try it. He comes home and then realizes he has no idea of how to raise chickens in his backyard. It's like, he's going to kill them? Like, what's going to go on? So he started to do some research on the internet about so he can keep his chickens alive, and he realized there's not that much information out there. So he started to go to the library, he started to ask experts out there, and started to figure out, what is the key to keeping chickens alive? How do you do this well? And he really became a self-taught expert in raising chickens in his backyard. Then his neighbor sees that he's raising chickens in his backyard, peers over the fence and says, Andy, I see you're raising chickens in your backyard. He said, oh, yeah, we're raising chickens. He said, I'd like to do that. Can you teach me how? And Andy said, absolutely, I would love to teach you. So teaches his neighbor how to do that. Then more and more of the neighborhood gets around. He puts together a little meetup, and everybody starts to learn how to raise chickens in his backyard. He puts up a note on meetup.org and says, I'm available to give more presentations. And communities from all over the United States were contacting him to come in and paying for his way to do sessions about raising chickens in his backyard. And he says, this might be a thing. I could make a business out of this. And he actually created a podcast. So this is actually his podcast schedule, his radio schedule. You can see it on his website, chickenwhisperer.com. And he's got basically, it's going to be hard to believe, 30,000 weekly listeners to his podcast now, all about raising chickens in your backyard. And if you can see that on Monday, Peter Brown is the chicken doctor. Why is that important on Monday? Because Andy has that guest, because over the weekend, maybe your chickens got sick. So what are we going to do? We're going to have Peter on Monday. So he starts to build an audience, and I'll talk more about Andy's case study later and how he built this into $1 million enterprise and how this has really worked. But he started with this idea called the sweet spot. Well, what is Andy's sweet spot? Andy is super passionate about teaching. He'll teach anything to anybody. He loves to teach. And on the other side, where does he have an authority to communicate? He has authority to communicate around backyard poultry. He became the de facto expert around raising chickens in your backyard. So we start with the sweet spot. Every company has a sweet spot. Let me give you another example. Let's say you're targeting farmers. And let's say the pain point of that farmer would be, how do I operationalize the farm? How do I hire the right people? How do I use the right technology, whatnot? And then on the other side, let's say your company really knows technology in agriculture. By the way, this is a real company. This is John Deere. John Deere started their Content Inc. approach in 1895. If you said, by the way, they created a magazine called The Furrow Magazine, launched in 1895 to small business owners, talking about how they can help farmers with their operational challenges. If you said, Joe, who's the largest media company in the farming industry? I would tell you it's not a media company. It's John Deere. 1.5 million subscribers, 40 countries, 14 different languages. But they all started just like we all did as a very small business, but they started by communicating value consistently over 120 years now. And the most amazing thing is we worked with the John Deere team a little bit, and I asked them, I said, how many times over 120 years did you mention your products or services in the content? And they had to think about it for a while, and they said about 13 to 15 times over 120 years. Do you believe that? So they're not talking about their own products or services in the content. They're really delivering value, and that's what we have to do. So now you figure out what your sweet spot is, and you have to go through that exercise, and then we move on to what I think is the most important area for you as a small business is the content tilt. And by the way, if you have any questions at any time, go ahead and ask them right now, and we're going to get to them as soon as, because we'll have a lot of Q&A time afterwards to answer your questions. So go ahead and submit those now. So now we go to the content tilt. What is the content tilt? The content tilt is that area on the web we need to focus on of little to no competition where we actually have a fighter's chance to break through. There is so much content competition out there. You have to make sure, and ask yourself this question. Are you blogging? Do you have content on your website? Do you do podcasts? Do you do videos, whatever? Are they any different than any other content out there? And if they're the same, you're not going to break through. It's not going to be successful for you. Let me give you an example of someone who did this very successfully. Let's talk about Ann Reardon. Ann Reardon is a stay-at-home mom in Sydney, Australia. She's now known as the baking queen of Sydney, Australia. She wanted to start a baking blog. And if you just think about this, how many baking blogs are there out there in the world? How many recipe sites? How many video sites? There's probably, since I've been talking for the last 10 minutes, there's probably been about 10,000 pieces of recipe content on the web. How is Ann Reardon, with no resources and basically a startup, how she's going to break through the internet and get subscribers? She started in January of 2012. She got 100 subscribers. She was thrilled beyond belief. Now she's got over 2 million subscribers, and she's done. If you've seen the Instagram cake, that's what she's been able to do, stuff like that. And I'll go through this a little bit for her content tilt. But as you go through, this is Ann's site. How to cook that. It's nothing special. It's just it's basically a site talking about recipes and whatnot. But she has done something different. Instead of just talking about recipes or general ways that you would cook certain things like we see everybody do, she focused on impossible food creations like, and I'll go back to that so you can see it, like how do you get a perfect replica of an Instagram logo in a chocolate cake? That went viral, by the way. She had over 2 million views of that one. Or she said, how do I take 5 pounds of Snickers bars and put them into a cake? And she made a cake on that. And she would do that over and over again. And she did it consistently. Every week she would come out with a new video. So this is all about the content tilt. Like okay, we've got our sweet spot here. She's between education as her passion. She's a qualified food scientist, but she can't just say, I'm going to just tell my story. She has to focus on a different story. And her different story is every piece of content she wanted somebody to say, that's impossible. How did she do that? I can't believe it. Impossible food creations was her differentiation over everything else out there. So when you think about your content, you have to think about how you are going to make it different. Now, here's a little strategy that we can work with. You want to create a content marketing mission statement. And so I want you to think about this question. What do all media companies do that you don't do with your content? And I've had the pleasure of being on about 35 different media startups. We're startup magazines and websites all around media companies. And every time we start that strategy, we start with an editorial mission statement. It's standard practice. But no small businesses out there, when they start their content marketing approach, create a mission statement. So I want to go through on how you can do this and create a mission statement. So here's an example from Digital Photography School. There's 3 things you want to do when you really focus on what your mission statement is. And let's read this one out. So if you go to, this is Darren Rouse's site. He's made a multi-million-dollar platform out of Digital Photography School. On his About Us page is this statement. Welcome to DPS, a website with simple tips to help digital camera owners get the most out of their cameras. Not rocket science, right? Anybody can do this. You can do this. But we want to be crystal clear as to what we're focusing on and how we're going to build this audience. 3 parts. Number 1, who's the core target audience? In Darren's case here, it's digital camera owners. He's not targeting digital camera owners, stay-at-home dads. He's not targeting 3 other types of audiences. He's just targeting digital camera owners. You have to target one audience. If you target more than one audience with your content, you're probably not going to be relevant enough. Number 2, what are we going to deliver? Simple tips. We're not talking about 2,000, 3,000 word articles here. Very, very simple to the point tips. 3, what is the outcome? This is the most important part. We want digital camera owners to get the most out of their cameras. That's the goal. So when we create our mission statement, it's not about us selling more products and services. It's about what's in it for the audience. We want the audience to get the most out of their cameras. That's how we make it go. So when you get time in your business, you start to look at your content, I want you to go back and create your mission statement, focusing on one core target audience. What are you going to deliver on a consistent basis, and what is the outcome for every piece of content that you create? And if you deliver this to content creators, it will help you immensely so that they know here's what the outcome is for the audience, so that you don't have so much editing time around things that aren't going to be relevant and aren't going to work for your business. All right. So the first 2, that's all strategy. We haven't created any piece of content yet. Sweet spot, content tilt. Now we're going to build the base. Now we're going to get into actually creating content. And I'm going to. This is amazing. Every case study that we talked to in the book did the exact same thing. And by the way, this is what media companies have been doing since the dawn of time. So even with all of these social media tools out here, what's successful is this model, and we call this the base. We focus for the most part on one content type. Is it audio? Is it video? Is it textual? We focus on one main platform. Is it my blog or website? Is it iTunes? Is it YouTube? We consistently deliver. So when I say consistently deliver, I mean it. So if you say you produce 2 blog posts a week, I say, no, you don't. You produce 1 blog post, you deliver at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, and another blog post at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. You want to set an appointment with your audience. You want to, just like a media company would. For those of you who get the newspaper, that newspaper's not there, you're upset. If you subscribe to Inc. magazine, which I do, and it doesn't come on time, I get upset. I want that. You've got to set that expectation that great content is coming. And then the last part, super important, it takes time. It takes time to build a loyal relationship with your audience. So if you're blogging and you've blogged for 3 months and you're not seeing your results, I'm going to say you have to wait longer. So if your timetable is 6 months or less, just go buy advertising. Go do another approach. Don't do this, because it takes time to build an audience. At least 9 months, sometimes into 12, 15, 16, 17 months to really build a loyal audience. And media companies know this, but small businesses don't. So we've got to make sure we set our expectations correctly. Let me give you some examples here. One is Copyblogger Media. Copyblogger, Brian Clark started a blog in 2006 around online copywriting. He blogged for 19 months straight. Over that time, he built an audience of email subscribers over 100,000. Today, he's one of the fastest growing software as a service companies. He did over $13 million this year in revenue. He's growing super fast. But how did he start? Textual content, blogging every day on his own blog consistently over time. Took him 19 months. So that's the type of mentality we want to think about. Let's look at an audio example. This is John Lee Dumas. John Lee Dumas now has over 200,000 iTunes subscribers at his Entrepreneur on Fire podcast. He basically, every day, he does a podcast. He delivers that podcast at 3:30 a.m. Eastern Time. He leverages iTunes as his platform. He now has millions of downloads, and in a 9-month-plus period, he became a multimillionaire. I know he's doing well over $2 million a year now. And it was funny, I was just a guest on his podcast. I was guest number 1159. Think about that. 1159 days in a row he sent this out. Now, I don't mean that you have to do daily content, but you have to be consistent about it. So that base really works. And in every case study, especially on small businesses, they did the same thing. One content type, one platform, consistently deliver over time. So maybe instead of you doing all the stuff that you're doing on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and blogging and podcasts and videos all over the place, focus on an area that you can be the leading expert in the world and be that and get to a point where you get a minimum viable audience first before you move on. Okay, so that's building the base. Step 4, harvesting the audience. What we want to do more than anything else is build an audience of email subscribers. Email is king in all shapes. But let's talk about social media, because I know a lot of you are using social media right now. Let's look at a social media site like Cisco Systems. The one you're looking at, Cisco, has over 700,000 people that like this page. Now I ask you a question. Let's say that the social media manager for Cisco does an update on their Facebook page to those 700,000 people. As a percentage, how many of those people will actually see that update organically even if they like them, how many are going to see that? Less than 1%, folks. If you have more than 10,000 likes on fans on Facebook, less than 1% of those people that like that page are actually going to see that update. That's terrible. It didn't always used to be the case, right? Facebook used to give us access to our audience. We were able to communicate directly with them. But Facebook decided, and they can do whatever they want to, right? It's their platform. They said, oh, we want to make money now, so we are going to not show all your content to everyone. We're going to show the content we want to show them. So Cisco has spent millions of dollars building up an audience base on Facebook that they can't even communicate with. And have no control over. Facebook controls it. So what do we want to do? So here's a really good way to look at this. This is my very sophisticated yay-boo scale for harvesting audience. We call this a subscriber hierarchy. So, by the way, if you look at everything on the left-hand side of your screen, they're all good. Like, I want all those. I want a Facebook fan. Makes me feel good. I want a YouTube subscriber. It's great. But we don't have a lot of control over it. Let's say, for example, you start a YouTube channel and you start delivering videos and you get people subscribing to your YouTube channel. Well, if YouTube decides that they're not seeing the kind of engagement on your YouTube channel to the particular subscriber, they might say, I'm not going to show that video. I'm going to show Jimmy Fallon instead. And you know what? They have every right to do that. So that's why we can't put so much faith into these social media platforms, because we don't have any control over it. They own that. I want you to get up in the morning and I want you to think, look, I'll leverage social media however I can today, but I want to drive them up to email subscribers because that's where I have control and I don't have control anywhere else. Email is absolutely king. But you might say, Joe, come on, email is dead. Look at a company like a BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed, they built their billion-dollar enterprise on the back of Facebook and Twitter and the social media empire. I know none of you watch any of those BuzzFeed videos, but let's just say you did. So I want you to follow the path, follow their calls to action, so follow the breadcrumbs. When you click on a piece of BuzzFeed content, where does it go? It goes to that little page that you're seeing right now. It goes to email subscription. You know you can get an email newsletter every week just on cats or dogs or DIY or food or whatever else. They have hundreds of different segmented newsletters. Why? Because they want to leverage all that social media to get you to subscribe to email, because they are freaking out right now because their entire business model is controlled by other companies, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. They need to have email connections where they have the most control. And if you are a media company, you are all about building audience. Content is not the asset. The audience is the asset, and content gets you there. Go back to John Lee Dumas and Entrepreneur on Fire. If you go any of his calls to action, he's on iTunes, right? He's got 200,000 subscribers, but iTunes might shut down his access tomorrow. So what does he do? All his calls to action go to that page. That's his website, and he's not even pulling any punches. He's going to give you a popover, and he's going to show you specifically, join Fire Nation, get all this value. I want your email address, join the community. He needs to grow his email list so that he actually has a business model that he can make this work. And we've done the same thing at Content Marketing Institute, where this is a popover. And by the way, I wasn't a big fan of using a popover on our site. We tested it out. We found out that over 65% of our daily subscribers, we get about 180 a day, sign up through this popover form. What do you have to do to make this happen? You need two things. One, you need an amazing newsletter. If you're like me, you get up in the morning and you do your dump of deletion of emails as you go, and you get rid of the majority of all your emails, all those e-newsletters that are spam and aren't valuable, but you always save a couple that are really valuable. Your business has to be one of those businesses that has the email that they don't delete. So it has to be amazing, and it can't all be about you. It has to give value to the audience. And then what do you need for that? To get them to give you their information, you need some exchange of value, some great ebook, amazing research report, super powerful template, whatever the case is, and show it. And here's a really good example of what we do. Join over 100,000 of your peers. Give them social proof. You're going to get daily articles. We want to subscribe you to our awesome e-newsletter, and if you do that, we're going to give you this exclusive workbook free. It's worked really well for us, and it works for almost every one of the case study we talk about in Content Inc. So I want you to look at that and focus on that. We found the sweet spot, differentiated our story through the content tilt, and then we built the base. We harvested the audience, focusing on email, and then we're going to diversify. One more thing, I just want to make sure I remind you, now is the time. We're going to get to Q&A in the next 10 minutes. So put in your questions now, and we'll get to them. I'd love to answer your questions. So now we're moving into diversification. When we think about diversification, there's two ways to think about it. So from a personal brand standpoint, the best people that we talk to, the best case studies, the multimillionaires out there, they diversify three ways. They have a blog, they have a book, like a real book, not just an ebook, and they do a lot of public speaking. As a business, you want to diversify and you want to become the leading expert in digital, in print, and in person. So what we want to do is we want to be like that octopus where we wrap our arms around our customers with all different amounts of ways to communicate with our customers. You don't do this at first. First, you have to create the base and build that minimum viable audience. Then what we do is then we diversify and we reach our audiences in new ways. Why? So let me give you some data from Content Marketing Institute, and this is really critical for us. We found that our magic number is three subscriptions. Our best customers, the ones that spend the most money with us, that spend the money to go to Content Marketing World or they buy our online training, they subscribe to three different things. They subscribe to, let's say, our email newsletter, our webinar series, or this old marketing podcast. And then we've got Chief Content Officer Magazine. We've got lots of different ways that we diversify. But we know that 3 is the number, and that's what our marketing automation platform tells us, that those are the ones that spend the most with us. So as a business, I know that if I get them to sign up to my email newsletter at first, I don't want to sell them anything. I want them to subscribe to 2 or 3 more things so they become a really good, loyal audience member, and then they're more willing to sign up for other things. Give you an example. This is actually revenue directly from Moz. If you know Moz, SEO Moz, they sell software as a service around SEO. Rand Fishkin started blogging in 2006. They were just a consulting company at the time. Rand is the CEO of Moz. He just did blogging, built up over 100,000 subscribers. Then, once he built those 100,000 subscribers, then he started his video series called Whiteboard Friday, delivered every Friday. Then he started his annual event called MozCon. And you can see the revenue, and I'd love to see this revenue from Rand Fishkin, now over a $30 million company. What we find in Content Inc. models is they grow faster than regular companies. Why is that? Because as Rand was signing up those 100,000 subscribers, who are those subscribers? Those are future customers. It's a future customer database. So you don't have to go out and market and find your customers. You already have them. They're already audience members. And if we think about from our diversification standpoint, what we did with ours, we built the base for 24 months at Content Marketing Institute, just blogging. That's all we did. We just focused on the blog. Then once we built an audience of over 10,000 subscribers, then we started the event Content Marketing World. Then we started the magazine Chief Content Officer. Then we started the podcast This Old Marketing. So this is the way we want to think about it. Now, we've also gotten there through buying. So a lot of you might say, by the way, this takes time. It takes patience to go ahead and build something. And you might absolutely want to go out and build it. But also you might say that there's bloggers, there's influencers, there's small media companies that you could actually buy out there that's already doing this. And you might think, Joe, hey, I'm a small business. I can't afford this. Hey, we're a small business too. We've done it twice. A lot of these deals are in the tens of thousands. They're not in the hundreds of thousands. And if you look at a lot of bloggers in your industry right now, they're really good at blogging, they're really good at content, they're really good at building audiences, but they're not really good at monetizing. So if somebody out there has a really good blog that you could possibly purchase, you won't have to go through the 9 to 15 months of time that it takes. You could just buy that subscriber database and you'd have that pre-customer database already. So we look at an example of this, JPEG Magazine. JPEG Magazine, 2009, they were going out of business. They basically had 300,000 subscribers. They targeted enthusiast photographers. And they were going out of business. They were a media company. They couldn't sell advertising anymore. So they were going bankrupt. Adorama comes along. What does Adorama do? Adorama sells photography equipment to photography enthusiasts. You don't think that they would want to target those 300,000 people? You know who those 300,000 are? That's Adorama customers and prospects. So Adorama put a buying group together. They bought JPEG Magazine. It's been a match made in heaven. We've seen L'Oreal bought Makeup.com. HubSpot, the marketing automation company, they've gone ahead. They bought an agency blog, and they didn't have an agency blog, and they wanted one. They went out and purchased it instead of building it. So just another way to think about diversification where I think there's a huge opportunity. And here's the last part, and then we'll get to Q&A. Monetization. Now, I know what you're all thinking. You're like, Joe, I don't have patience for this. I want to monetize this as soon as possible. And you should. As a small business owner, small business marketer, you want to be thinking about monetization and how you're going to make money from this from day one. The reason why this is the sixth step is usually we need to build a relationship. We need to deliver so much value first before we can extract that value. And it needs to happen, and usually has to happen after these first 5 steps are through. Now, how do we monetize? You can monetize in 9 different ways that we talk about. You could do like we do, in advertising and sponsorship. You do events. Maybe you're going to do like Copyblogger, and you're going to increase product sales. And you're going to sell, software as a service specifically. Maybe you're going to be like John Deere, and your focus is on creating more loyal customers. Maybe you're like Craft Recipes, where they use it just for data, because they want to know what are my customers clicking on, what are they engaging in, because I need to know when I can launch the cinnamon spice Oreo line or whatever the case is, and they use that as product and research development. Maybe it's cost savings. Maybe you're doing something in PR or advertising that you think that you can do have equivalent results online. And then there's this last one, and I'll finish with this last case study, and we call this revenue ripples. It's unexpected things that happen in your business model when you build an audience. And let's talk about river pools and spas, and I love this example. So let's go back to 2007, 2008. Marcus Sheridan was CEO of River Pools and Spas. Do you remember what happened in 2008? We had the Great Recession, if you know, and a lot of people, what does Marcus do? Marcus is in an area of Virginia and Maryland, and he installs and sells fiberglass pools. In 2008, people were calling Marcus and saying, Marcus, I need my $50,000 deposit yet because I have to put my kids through school. I have to pay the tuition. I got to pay my mortgage. They didn't have the money anymore to do this. What are they going to do? Marcus was a $5 million company at that time. He was 5th in his marketplace. So he's the 5th largest business in his market. 2 consultants came to him and said, Marcus, you should just put everybody out of your misery and close the business. It's not going to work. You can't make payroll. It's not going to happen. Marcus was stubborn in a really good way and said, no, there's a better way to do it. He starts doing Google searches, like things like when you go and buy a fiberglass pool, you type in, how much does a fiberglass pool cost? And all the results that he got on Google were sales results. They weren't really valuable content. He said, maybe there's an opportunity to focus on teaching first. So he said his biggest change, the thing that changed his business, he said, we went from being a teacher of fiberglass pools who also sells and installs them instead of leading with we sell and install fiberglass pools. It changed everything about his business. He started blogging. He started coming up. He started building an audience over time. So in 2008, he was almost bankrupt. He was 5th in his marketplace, $5 million company. By 2011, he sold more fiberglass pools than any company in North America. What did he do different? He led by teaching first, all about fiberglass pools to a specific audience, and that was it. It took him 3 years to get there. But now it's amazing what's happened. Now, what are the revenue ripples? Well, River Pools became a global brand because he started getting calls from all over the United States, started getting calls from Brazil, from Europe, and from China, calling Marcus up saying, Marcus, we trust you, we read your stuff, would you come over and install our pool for us? And he's like, we can't do that. We just cover this area of Virginia and Maryland. I can't fly over there. But then they got an idea like, oh my gosh, maybe there's another revenue opportunity out there. Well, now, as of the last few months, River Pools and Spas now manufactures pools. They're becoming a global company, and that's something they would have never gotten into if they didn't have an audience. It's a great, great case study and a testament to how the Content Inc. model can work. So here's your takeaways before we get to Q&A. First, find a niche where you can actually be the leading expert in the world. What is your different story? If you're telling a story just like everyone else, it's not going to work. Focus on a niche small enough that when you ask the question, can we be the leading expert in something, you actually can. Then you build your content marketing mission statement, just like we showed you. Focus on one content type, one platform, and deliver consistently. Instead of spreading your content all over everywhere, focus and be great at one thing. Don't build your house on rented land with specifically social media. Use social media. I love social media. I'm not a social media hater, but focus on building your audience on your own platform with email subscribers. Build that audience of opt-in subscribers, and you need an amazing e-newsletter and remarkable download to do that. Then we go ahead and diversify once we've created a minimum viable audience, and we really then want to start to ask ourselves the question. This is the ROI question for all of you. What do your subscribers do differently? Do they buy more? Do they stay longer? Do they talk more favorably about you? Whatever the case is, that's the difference in why the Content Inc. model works. Audience first. Your focus is always on the audience first. We're going to build that audience. Then we are going to deliver products and service offerings to them, and absolutely be patient. It's going to take time to do this. If your timetable is super short, like less than 6 months, don't do this. This is not for you. If it's longer than 6 months, then maybe this is something that you would be willing to try. So, Carrie, we're right on time. I'm ready to go to Q&A, but if you want to wrap it up a little bit, and then we can answer some questions.
That was awesome, Joe. Thank you so much. We're going to open up the Q&A portion of the webinar now. We hope to get to all of your questions, but if we don't during the event, we'll try our best to respond afterward via the content marketing thread on the Manta community, which is linked in the resource list. So you can go over to the community, ask Joe a question there, and he will respond if you do it within the next hour. So let's ask a question that ties to the last point you made, Joe. I think we really live in an instant gratification society, and content marketing demands a kind of patience that I think many of us don't have. How do you develop that patience and decide, I'm going to stick with it for X amount of time?
You have to it's a great question. I think that because we can publish today, we feel that we should see instantaneous results, and just because you can publish doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. So what I would really focus on, and when you're building the base, I would pick a number that you think would be the number that you can then start offering products and services against. So let's say that you're a small B2B company. You might say that number might be 1,000 email subscribers. So you're going to go and focus everything you can on building your audience and building your list up to 1,000 before you go and offer products and services against that in some way. So get to that number. If you look at a company like Michael Stelzner and Social Media Examiner, his goal was 10,000. So he didn't want to start pitching any products or services till he got to that 10,000 email subscriber number, and now he's one of the fastest growing media companies on the planet now, being able to do that. It's got a great, really super successful event. Same thing with Brian Clark. Brian Clark's number, he was trying to get to more like 100,000. If you're a consumer company, you might need more than that. But if you're a B2B company, by the way, and you sell $100,000 products or $1 million products, your audience may be like 50 or 100. So don't think that it has to be this huge number. With us, it was about 10,000 at Content Marketing Institute. So I would you want to take small wins like website traffic, social shares, all good things to start seeing that your content is resonating. Maybe you're getting found in search engine results. This is all really, really good things. But I want you to focus on a number where you can build an audience, get to that number, and then you can go ahead and say, look, now we can start to monetize against that number.
Great, thank you. We have a lot of service providers in our audience today, and so one of them is asking, how can I use content marketing in a service business?
You can use it, I mean, whether you're looking at a Marcus Sheridan example from that kind of a service business, or whether you're looking at a consulting company, or whether you're looking at a restaurant service business, you have to focus on who your audience is and what their needs are. So the first thing that I would do, when you go through the sweet spot and you go through that content tilt, so you know inherently what the story is that you want to tell. You know probably what you're good at talking about. Then you can get to that point about what does that audience need that they really aren't getting anywhere else that we can provide for them. There was one, I don't know why I just thought of this, but there's one financial services company that didn't even create their own content. They started delivering one leadership book to their audience every month because they felt that what was lacking was not financial information, but it was leadership and how those companies can lead. So I don't know if it means that it's ongoing recipes about a certain thing. I don't know if it means that you're going to help them with a specific task that nobody's doing. So I would just set up your what we call listening posts and really talk to your customers about what's keeping them up at night, what's challenging them. That's where you'll really find the content tilt. Once you start getting some keyword phrases and things, we talk more about this in the book, but use a tool called Google Trends. Google Trends is a free tool. Google offers it, and you can go and type in your search engine offerings or search engine keywords, and they will tell you certain areas that are breaking out. So if it's, let's say that you're talking about RFID equipment, maybe if you just started blogging about RFID equipment, it's been there, done that. A lot of people doing that, but maybe it's about microscopic chips, or maybe it's about the manufacturing process, or maybe it's something different. So I would say, and especially in a service business, I would say talk to your customers, survey your customers, watch them, look at them, see how they engage on social media, and really figure out, is there something that you could deliver and build a relationship that nobody else is providing right now? And it does take a while. And get your team together. It might take a week or two to really think about this, but most service companies, they're just out there and creating the same content that everybody else is.
The next question relates to the sweet spot, or after the sweet spot, I guess I should say. What do you do to get that audience? Do you consider buying leads?
So we're talking about content promotion then. So yeah, so you're into the part where you're already building the base. So you might say, hey, look, you build it organically, but there's a lot of things that you can do in order to build your audience. I would absolutely look at, first of all, before you're going to buy emails, which you can. I mean, you can buy buy space in content recommendation tools on certain sites. You can buy search engine placement. You can buy all kinds of promotion. Absolutely, you can buy email, all that stuff, and see if you wanted to do that. But if you really want to make this thing work, I want you to target your influencers in your industry. So who are the blogs? Who are the media company sites? Who are the associations in your industry that has the audience that you want? So what we really want to do is we want to steal audience from other places, right? There's not more time. We need to get these audience members from somewhere else. So what we want to do is we want to reach out to those influencers. We want to share their content. We want to build relationships with them. We want to partner with them on content initiatives. We want to cross-promote things. So you want to build relationships with those folks. Maybe that you want them to guest blog on your site, or maybe they're guests on your podcast, or whatever the case is. And then they'll start spreading your message in front of their audience. And then their audience can become your audience. And that was probably the number one thing that we did when I had no resources at all at Content Marketing Institute. We were trying to build an audience. We put together a research report of the top content marketing blogs in our industry, the top 42 blogs, and we did research around it. We did a press release around it. We really promoted it heavily, and then everyone shared that they were in that research. They shared it out to their customer list, their audience list. They came back to our site, and then we were able to subscribe them to our email newsletter. So I would really look heavily into focusing on who those influencers are, build relationships with them, and then tap into their audiences.
And since you mentioned newsletters, we have a few questions. People just wondering how you actually set up an email newsletter, and is there a service that you recommend?
So there's two things you really need to do to get started as a small business. And so I'm just going to consider that you have minimal resources. If you have minimal resources, you need two things. You need a content management system, like a WordPress, some website that you can distribute content on, that you can start to get people to that site and then sign them up to your email. And then you need an email marketing tool. any one of the email marketing tools out there in the market will probably work just fine. MailChimp, iContact, Emma, I'm sure Manta, you have a bunch of things that you would recommend and partners that you work with. Whatever the case is, focus on those. Those are the two things that you need, because that email marketing list, that's your future customer database that you're going to tap into. So those are the two things that I would start with. If you look at any of those platforms, they have lots of templates that are set up, easy to use. They're rather inexpensive. Some of these are just like $10 a month that you can get going with, and then they will keep your data for you so that you can focus on, and you can set up the times for when to send. It's actually really easy, really intuitive, and any one of those providers would work just fine.
Is there also a resource that you recommend to learn the fundamentals of blogging?
The fundamentals of blogging. There are probably about 1,000 guides out there that will tell you like blogging tips 101. There's probably a couple sites. One is Copyblogger.com that I would go to. The other one is ProBlogger. So Darren Rouse, actually the site that we talked about, Digital Photography School, his other site is ProBlogger. It's a great site. It's fantastic. Lots of free tools on both of those sites as well. And then, of course, in Content Inc., the book, we go into quite a bit of detail on blogging as well. But if you're just looking for free, I would look at Copyblogger and I would look at ProBlogger as two key ones to check out.
Perfect. Thank you. Another question here. Can you use the same method that you described during the webinar today for a membership-driven nonprofit organization?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, the great thing about a nonprofit membership organization is you probably have a really deep purpose that your membership would align to. So you do the same things. Your membership, that's your email subscription. So there's two ways to do it. Instead of just signing up members and saying, here's the membership, maybe you offer a free newsletter as a gateway to signing up members to your program. I think the one thing I've worked with a lot of membership organizations, nonprofits, and associations, and the problem is they put all their content behind a gate, which means that you have to be a member to get to that content. It's really hard today because there's so much free content and available content, really valuable content out there. It's hard to differentiate on paid content alone as a differentiation. So I would look at how much of that really good content that you can take that's member only and get out there for free so that you can build an audience, and maybe some specialized content you can keep behind the membership wall. But this works really, really well for a nonprofit.
Another question for you, Joe. How much time is enough time to dedicate to building out your content marketing? Small business owners wear a lot of hats. They're busy. So, how many hours a week do you need to dedicate to this? So the answer, the real answer is it depends, but nobody wants to hear that answer. But I'll say this. You actually don't want to create more content. You want to create the minimum amount of content for the maximum amount of results. And that's why I like this model, because it really gets you focused on something that you can do really well. So if you look at the resources you have and you say, look, I can only do one podcast a week, or let's just say blogging just to make it simple. Maybe you can do only one blog post a week. Make it a really good blog. That also means that you could outsource that. It doesn't have to be you as a small business owner. There are lots and lots of really good journalists, copywriters, writers out there that are more than willing to write for you. If you're looking to find those, go into, take your trade magazine or a magazine for your industry and just look at them, open up to the couple pages and look for the masthead. There's always contributor writer section. Those people are ready. They don't work for that magazine. They work as freelancers. They might be able to help you write, create content, whatever the case is. So the most important thing is I would spend time on the strategy. Get really good with the sweet spot, the content tilt, figuring out what you want to do, and then you can go out. You don't have to create all the content yourself. You could just be one content creator, or you could put a whole team of content producers together. Like at Content Marketing Institute, 99% of the content is not created by CMI staff. It's created by other people, contributors out there. So we don't create, we just manage the process. So if I was to put it in hours, I don't know. It could be anywhere from 5 hours a week to 20 hours a week. It depends on what you want to do and how much content you're going to create. But start out, whatever you need to do, start out consistently. I would rather you do something less frequent and more consistent than
2 posts here, 3 posts here, and then you don't do a post and don't do a post and then do one. Like that inconsistency will never work. Do something so that every day of the same, let's say the same day of every week, you're delivering something of value to your audience and set that expectation.
Another question from the audience today, how can a consulting business leverage other influencers in an industry?
Well, do the work. First, make the list, and I would start with 5 to 10 influencers in your particular industry. And if you're a consultant, if you're like most consultants, you focus on lots of different areas. So whoever asking this, focus on one specific area that you can focus on your content marketing approach with, and then figure out, okay, who are the influencers in that area? You get lots of different tools out there that you can figure out how do I, we can listen on Twitter. You can look at Alexa and see who are the most popular sites, and you can basically read the content in your industry every day. You will find out who those influencers are, and then start with 5, and then start sharing their content on a regular basis out through, let's say, Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, and start tagging them. And create a strategy and a process around it so that for those 5 influencers that you're targeting, every day, let's say you're sharing a piece of their content. Remember, the majority of content that you want to promote on your social media channels is not yours. You want to promote other people's content so that you'll build a relationship with them, and hopefully they'll share your content out through their channels. So I would focus on 5, figure out the ones that are going to make the most sense, build a relationship. It takes about a month or 2 to do an outgoing sharing program that you can get them, and then you can start to focus on 1 or 2 that you can build a really good relationship with and figure out, do they want to write for you? How can you partner? Maybe you do a co-marketing effort, whatever the case is.
All right, I think we have time for one more question. We've got some good feedback. Somebody says, excellent presentation. Do you have any thoughts on video? It can look shabby and production costs money. Is static content sufficient?
Well, first, I guess if you look at static content, I guess that would be like a textual, like blog. So there's 3 ways to look at it.
I think so. Yeah.
So absolutely. Blogs can work well. Just make sure that you have an image with that blog. Imagery is very, very important. It has to look visually pleasant for somebody to see you as a credible resource. So look at that. Here's what's interesting, and go to this. There's a really good example. Her name's Jenny Doan, D-O-A-N, and she's with Missouri Star Quilting Company, and she started years ago just creating very, very low budget video. And got to remember, the most important thing about video is not the video quality, it's the audio quality. You got to make sure the audio is good. And they started shooting. They basically just bought a camera, started shooting it, uploading it, very low production value. She's built up over 290,000 subscribers out of this little quilting company, and she has people come from all over the world to Missouri Star Quilting Company in this little city in Missouri because they want to meet her and they buy her stuff and all her quilting patterns and whatnot. But go back and you look at hers, it's not that sophisticated. It didn't cost that much to do. If I had to guess, maybe a couple $100 a video. Maybe even less than that. So I think that sometimes we think it always has to be like what we see Apple do or BMW. It doesn't have to be. The most important thing is actually not the quality of the content, it's the consistency, and I think a lot of people forget that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Joe. We've got to wrap it up now, folks, but if your question wasn't answered, head over to the Manta community to get your question answered by Joe. Just visit community.manta.com and click on the Ask the Expert banner to pose your question anytime within the next hour, and Joe will answer you there. Be sure to sign up for our next webcast on how to turn a slow January into big business. It's scheduled for January 5th. We hope you'll join us. Thanks for attending today.